to using a Tinker Board with Onshape. Tinker Board is actually a product from ASUS, and it's a very similar product made on a very small board, as you can see here, what they call single board computer, SBC. Very similar to the Raspberry Pi. I've actually tried running Onshape on the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, and it was able to bring it up, but there was a lot of artifacting, as well as it was very, very slow. Couldn't do much with it. I'm thinking the next generation of Raspberry Pis will probably be able to handle it. Most likely, it seems to me, it's more the actual memory. In this case, the Tinker Board actually has 2 gigabytes of memory versus the Raspberry Pi has 1 gig. So I'm thinking that's maybe what's the case, but I might be wrong. Anyhow, we're going to take a look at how this runs on here. We're going to end up modeling this part. I'm in Debian, as you can see here, which is a Linux-based OS, and I'm using the Chromium web browser. And I've already logged in. Logging in is incredibly easy. If you're an educator or an education, you could definitely get a license of this, and it works. It's truly a cloud-based CAD system. So anyhow, we're going to take a look. Now, the thing is if you do get the student version, just be aware that when you save these, it actually you have to share it with other people. So you can't. Nothing confidential can be done on here unless you purchase purchase the true license. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to go to Onshape up here, and I'm going to go to Create Document. I'm going to go ahead and name this E2C, and notice this, Create Public Document, so I'm going to have to go ahead and select that. As you can see, it takes a little bit of time to load the workspace. On a Windows 10 computer, much more powerful processor, you can do more. But remember, this is a single board computer that's about $60, so not a whole lot there. Okay, so what we're going to do, these planes are your paper essentially to sketch on. We're going to start by sketching on the front plane. Simply right-click on the edge of the front plane and create new sketch. Go to the line tool. Oh, and also up here you'll see this is the view manager, so you could click on the front of this, what looks like an ice cube actually. Click on it and it will orient you to that specific orientation. So on that front, notice there's pan, there's I should say pan, and then there's rotate, and then there's a whole selection of view options here too. Okay, so anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and begin by drawing. I'm going to lock in here and draw a vertical line. And actually I missed the target a little bit, so I'm going to hit escape there and grab that point and lock it back into the origin. The origin, that's our 0 marker in space, and that's a nice anchor to work with. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and draw another one over this direction here. I'm going to hit escape. And now if you right click on these, you have the option to change them into construction geometry. So I'm just going to do that for both. Because this vertical line is going to be our revolve line. So kind of like it's a lathe or potter's wheel approach, as some people call it, where we're actually going to draw a profile and spin it around. And then we're going to mirror across this area here. Now I'm going to go to the line tool and lock into this line and click and drag this up. Now I'm still in construction, so I'm going to hit escape a couple times just to make sure I'm out of it, and then click back on this. And there we go. So just make sure you hit escape a couple times with that one. Alright, draw a line about 0.6 or 0.7-ish in height. Make sure it's vertical. Click. Drag a short little line to the left here. Now you can actually type in values when you click initially. Like so, if I wanted to, I could just type in 0.4 on my keyboard if I know exactly what the dimension is. But if you're doing conceptual design, you don't always have the dimensions down, so later on you could add those. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and click at a slight angle here, and I'm going to make what looks kind of like a half of an airplane, but this will be that wheel, believe it or not. And I'm going to draw this out less than an inch, make sure it's horizontal, drag that up. Again, something less than an inch, maybe 0.7 or 0.8-ish. Click, drag this across, and short little edge there, and we'll make that 0.25 because I know that's thickness in that one. And then drag this straight down and connect to the horizontal line. And now you can hit escape. Alright, we're going to add some additional dimensions in here in just a moment, but first we want to mirror it over. So here's how to mirror. Go up here to the mirror tool, and now it's asking to select the mirror line. Select the mirror line, and now select the entities to be mirrored. You could actually click and window around what you want to mirror. And there it is. Okay, I'm going to go to the dimension tool here to add some dimensions. I want to dimension from this line to this line here, and that's going to be 0.2. And unfortunately, sometimes when you plug in these numbers like that, it doesn't erase the actual digits, and so I have to zoom out to find the dimension there. Or, you know, and there it is. Actually, I could undo this. This might just be easier. And then zoom back up, or I could click on front and it will automatically fit to the screen. And so I'm going to double click on that dimension again and make sure you clear it out. Sometimes you're able to do it, don't have the issue, but if you don't clear it out, that can happen. Let's move that over there. Lay the dimensions out to where they're easily editable in the event that you want to make change. Okay, now let's go back to dimension, select this line here and this line here and drag this off to the left, and that's going to be 2. So again, if you're used to the Windows environment, it doesn't always work that way, so it's pretty darn close though. Remember, you're on the cloud, so it's a little different. Okay, make sure you type that in, clear out those numbers. The next thing we're going to do is we'll go ahead and dimension from this line to the center line, the vertical center line, and then drag it to the right of the vertical center line, and you will get a full diameter dimension. It's kind of a prerequisite to knowing that it's going to revolve around 360 degrees, so it will overall be that dimension. So that's a good thing. So click, and let's make that 5. Alright, let's go down here and add a dimension between this line and this is a through hole that's going to be 3/4 of an inch, so 0.75. And again, I did that little thing there, I didn't clear out the box. Okay, and now for angles. Angle dimensions are really easy. You just select the angled line, and then select the line adjacent to it, and get between the two, and click to drop the dimension. Clear out the dimension, over, make it 18 degrees, and then finally, from this point to the center line, drag it up here, and that's going to be 2. Again, make sure you clear out. And now we have a fully defined sketch. What I mean by fully defined, I should have pointed out earlier that the geometry was blue initially, and that is a very flexible, conceptual geometry color to have. You could actually pull and tug on the lines and conceptualize easily. Once you start adding dimensions, that's where you're ready for production. Okay, so it turns black, and that's fully defined, and that's really good. That's what you want before you go to production. Okay, now I'm going to go and hit the green check mark here. I'm going to click on the Revolve feature, which is on the far left. And the first thing, it says Faces and Sketch Regions. It's Revolve. So I'll click on this geometry. Now, if you don't see this shaded internally here, be aware that that might be an issue. It might be that you have a fragment of a line, aka a sloppy sketch, and you want to make sure you get a watertight boundary condition. Everything should be closed. All gaps should be closed. There should be no fragments. Alright, and if you get a surface, that's usually a sign that perhaps you have an untidy sketch and it's not watertight. But we've got a solid here, see it's in blue, and then we're going to go and select down here for the revolve axis, and that's this vertical line here. Now as I I click on my right mouse button and hold and move my mouse down and to the left and right, you could rotate dynamically and see the preview of the revolve feature. Now if you're not getting this, you might have to go in here and select in this box here and make sure you select your geometry, and then the revolve axis again, make sure that you've selected that. And that should give it to you. So hit the green check mark. Now we're going to add some fillets in here. So the fillet tool is right up here. You'll see there's fast keys like Shift F is for fillet. I don't always use the fast keys for everything, but they are very useful, making it more efficient. Okay, the entities to fillet. Before we add a fillet, let's go ahead and put in a radius of 0.125. I'm going to hit enter, and then you can select this face right here. You can select faces and edges. Beware, faces are not always what you want. It is very nice when you want all the topology or the regions of that surface to be filleted, but remember, you don't always want that. And I'll click here and hit the apply button. Now I'm going to go to fillet, and we'll add a bigger fillet this time. Let's put in 0.5, so a ½ inch. And select this inside edge here, and with the right mouse button, hold that down and rotate by moving your pointer down. Click on this edge on this side. Hit the green check. And let's put one more in here. Go back to fillet, and we'll go with 0.25 this time around. And select this edge here on that tapered face. Right hold mouse button down and select this edge right here. Hit the green check. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and make some ribs in here. And so select this face right here, right click on it, and you can start a sketch on that. So find new sketch, and then up here, that's on the top orientation, so click on top there, and now we're looking at it from the top. I'm going to draw an arc here, so go to 3-point arc. Now if you have difficulty with this, if you make it too small, you may not be able to complete it. So be aware, try and follow as best as you can. I'm going to draw this almost vertically straight, but a little bit off to the side here. And it's short. Notice it's within that region. And then about a radius of 2 inches is a good one for this. Okay, it's going to be a very subtle geometry, and we'll type in 2 at that point. And as long as you can see that like that, it's not curved too much, you should be in good shape. If not, just delete it and draw a straight line, and you can tinker with this later. Anyhow, now that we have that, we could hit the green check. And again, I'm not putting all the dimensions in here, just having a little bit of fun. So I'm going to go to the rib tool and select the actual curve there. I'm going to rotate with my right mouse button, and now we're going to, instead of parallel to plane, select normal to sketch, and you can see it's creating a little fragment there. But let's extend the profiles of the part, and notice it extends up to the geometry. Hit the green check. Right. So as you can see, adding a rib is not all that difficult. Now there's a number of things we could do. We could have actually added a bunch of geometry in there, or we could pattern this. Let's go to circular pattern, and the entities to pattern. From the feature tree, select the rib. Okay. There we go. And for some reason, let's see. Entities to pattern. Let's try selecting it here. Let's see. Alright, I don't want to pattern part there. And I've done this before. It's just, I admit I'm rather new to this software, so the nuances are escaping me at this point. I know the axis to pattern we'll want, but it's actually, we can select like a face there, and then the entities to pattern. Let's try and get that again. There we go. Okay, the preview just, I think the Tinker Board, which remember it's a little on the slower side for this type of geometry, I had to go ahead and select this. I wasn't getting a preview like I'd hoped. Again, that If you had a faster computer or a normal computer, that would work just fine. But again, I'm running this on a $60 computer, so we're not expecting a whole lot there. Okay, and so there we have our geometry. But here, I'm going to go ahead, instead of putting in 4, let's put in 7 and hit enter. Alright, now what we could do is we can mirror that to the other side. So I'm going to hit the green check. Alright, so here is the mirror tool. Now what you usually need to mirror across is either a plane or a flat surface of some sort. So the entities to mirror, first of all, let's go ahead and click on the circular pattern and the rib. Hold, select that. Come on. Okay. And mirror plane, I'm going to click and I'm going to add the top plane, because the top plane intersects through the center. Let me go back to the mirror here, and we'll just try selecting this feature again. Right click and see, there it is. Okay, and also we need to bring the pattern, so select one of the pattern features as well. And let's rotate around, see if it's working. And as you can see, we're having a little bit of an issue right here. Just going to take a minute. Let's reload. Load the workspace again. This is a first that I've had this happen. Again, I haven't been using this for all that long. It could be that my internet, for all I know, I'm not quite sure why it's doing this. But there we go. And it looks like, oh, you know what, it only took what we selected. That's okay. Let's, instead of going through that again, just note that you have to go through, and you could, in theory, you should be able to select the circular pattern feature and it would take all of them. But in the meantime, so we could finish this up, let's go ahead and we're going to take and select the front plane, right click, and start a sketch on that. So new sketch. And then we go to the front view orientation. What we're going to do is we're going to make those cutouts in here. So those are nothing more than some circles. I'm going to take the circle tool, and right on this outer edge here, I'm going to eyeball it a little bit and snap to that. And make a nice big circle. About 1.25 is good. And then up here we'll add another one, and we'll make that maybe about the same, about 1.25. Notice I, oops, in that case, let's double click and let's hit escape. Double click on that again. 1.25, there we go. Alright, and it seems to have kind of jazzed up my geometry, so I'm going to hit undo a couple times to bring that back the way it was. Alright, now I'm going to go back to dimension and add the dimension there. Okay, now we could mirror that across. I think I'll give that a shot. Take the line tool, draw another center line, horizontal. And I'm going to hit escape on the keyboard and right click on that geometry and change it to construction. Now I could go to the mirror tool, and I'm going to select this to mirror across, and I could hit the green check. Oh, before I did that, I should have put in one more center line. So I'm going to go over the sketch here and right click and edit. One more line. So I'm going to go to the line here, and right in the middle, we're going to draw another center line, hit escape, right click on it, and change it to construction. Alright, now we could go to the revolve tool again. So hit the green check mark, go to revolve, and I'm going to go ahead this time go with solid. We're going to remove material, and we'll select that circle there, this one here, and this one here. And then the revolve axis, we'll click in there and select that vertical centerline major. And we see a preview, right click, and you could rotate and see the preview, hit the green check. And did not regenerate properly. Let's take a look at that. Let's edit that. Let's see what we're facing. Okay, it looks like maybe it was a little, doesn't appear overly complex, but I'm going to go ahead and make those a little bit smaller so I can go into that revolve and edit the sketch. And let's change this dimension here. I'm just going to double click. And we'll make that much smaller, 0.75. And it seems to have moved everything, because I don't have everything fully constrained, so I'm going to have to do a little tailoring myself. I'm going to drag that out there, drag this one up here, and notice because they're mirrored. And that's why it's so important to, when you're going into production, fully define your sketches, because then you don't have to tinker with it. But again, we're just having a little fun here. And the revolve seems to have failed once again. Let's take a look and edit that. Maybe there's a remove solid. It could be the actual sketch. Let's take a look at that again. Edit sketch. And this is just part of the process of trying to figure out what might be causing some problems. So let's try that again. Hit apply. Kind of interesting. I didn't run into this type of a problem the other day, but I typically don't redo videos, so it's like I figure this is real life. You gotta figure it out. So I'm going to go back here and edit this sketch once again. Let's take a closer look at what might be going on there. I'm going to go to the front view orientation. The geometry doesn't look bad. I don't understand why that would cause this sort of an issue. It's relatively simple, but sometimes things are a bit more complex than we realize. One more try here. I'm going to edit that revolve, and let's see if we can get something going here. Let's see. Okay, solid. Remove. It's going to be one of those things. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at that. But note that the first time I ran this, I had no problem making this. And I just did this right off the cuff, just like I did now. So, that being said, you would typically get this type of geometry. And let's face it, on a Tinker Board, it's a very anemic computer. Not really designed to do these types of things, but thought it would be fun and interesting for those of you who are like me, kind of nerdy. Anyhow, thank you for watching. I hope you weren't too aggravated with this. Thanks.